I'm good. How about you?
I'm here. What is it showing up as 80%?
Right.
There you go. I'm 80%. Oh.
Dan told you should be a little late.
Yeah, but the first agenda point is for the presentation.
That's just.
Yeah, okay.
Let me know when you're ready to start.
Okay. I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. And
Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Happy Monday. Doing the best you can. Welcome to the Land Use Committee meeting. I am Erin, the Vice Chair. Our chair is joining shortly. Yes. Is this better? Okay. So our first and only,
would you like me to take attendance?
yes, please take attendance.
Good. Good evening, everyone. I will be taking the roll. Dana Gonzalez, Aaron and Keith,
Present.
Joan Body, Gabino Morales Escamilla, Ziomara Garcia, Matthew Florkowitz, Julia Melzer Harris, Nicholas Jackson, Jeremy Kaplan, Antoinette Martinez, Karen Rolnick, Damaris Santiago, John Santori, Maria Roca, you do not have quorum. Nicholas Jackson, you have quorum.
Yay. So our point of business for this evening is the presentation for 783 4th Avenue, also known as the St. Rocco site.
Yeah.
Yes, we are ready.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Palatnik. It's nice to see some of the people that I know here. And to those who I haven't met before, thank you for coming this evening. I'm here on behalf of Watermark Capital, who is developing the former St. Rocco's site. And they've been selected by the diocese to do so. This is not being sponsored by the diocese at all. This is simply on behalf of a private applicant, and we are presenting to you a rezoning of the property. We've met with your board on numerous occasions, and we've met with the community on numerous occasions, and we're still doing that. We are 3/4 of the way through the paperwork process of a rezoning. We're hoping to come to the end of it in another month or so, or 2 months, which will mean the application will be what's called certified, which means that Department of City Planning will deem the paperwork complete. Doesn't mean that they're acting on the application at all. Just means that they're deeming that the paperwork has been filled out and all the forms and all the writings and all the presentation materials. Then they'll certify the application. That'll happen sometime in June, maybe. We have to talk with your board more about it for your schedule to make sure that the schedules coincide, because we don't want to disrupt your schedule. We know that the summertime is not a time when committee boards routinely meet, and we have no desire to cause you to call special session over the summer. So we'll be talking to you about that so that we could discuss the formal presentation of the application once it's certified. But tonight is just it's not just, but it's not a formal presentation, meaning that this is not being done in any sort of ULURP process. This was our request to come and meet with you, responding to the interactions we've had with the community and the community board and the council member. So this is an interactive idea here. This is not under any sort of time frame. Any questions you have or any ideas you have, or anything you want to discuss, ownership is here with us tonight, as is Michelle De La Uz, and Michelle is the sponsor of I don't know what her official title is, of the Fifth Avenue Committee. She's Chief Cook Bottle Washer at the Fifth Avenue Committee, but she is also a part of the development team, in the sense that the site that we're going to present to you has 3 different distinct portions to it. One of them is going to be developed exclusively by Fifth Avenue Committee with a fully affordable building at very low rents. So I'll go through the whole presentation with you, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if you have anything while I'm talking that you'd like to get clarified or anything, please feel free. You could stop me at any point if you'd like. I don't mind, and we'd be happy to answer anything if you have questions. Since some of you have seen this before, hello, good evening. Nice to see you again. So you didn't miss a thing. We just started, so you didn't miss a single thing. All right, so you can see up on the screen is the proposal, but it's sort of hard to see that one there. Jacob, is there one that shows all 3 sites a little bit more clearly, the A, B, and C site? Let me see what page to get you to. Why don't you go to page, it's not numbered, but this page, Jacob. Here, this one. Oh, you're controlling the screen. You want me to control the screen? Yeah, let's see. That's it. Thank you for, I didn't mean to make you the controller of my screen. Okay, so if you could see the screen that's up in front of you there, which is very, very hard to see, Jacob's going to pass out some hard copies to people so they can take a look, and I think you all can see it there. So the page that we're on is about 7 or 8 pages into the presentation. The right-hand side of the screen describes what we are proposing to you. And actually, you know what? I'm going to take you even one more, make a page that's even clearer. You see this page here? This will make it even easier for everybody. Should be buried in there somewhere. A bit further. I have that same problem. It takes so long for the pages to load. Jacob, you have to number the pages going ahead. It's very hard to get to. All right, so this page makes it actually, this is a simplistic page, and this will explain everything to you. And this is what it looks like, and it's up on the screen too. It's about 3/4 of the way through your presentation. What this page is showing you in the top left corner are that we are proposing three different buildings. One building that'll be 13 stories at the corner of 4th Avenue and 27th Street. That's called Building A. That will be a mixed-use building that will have a small little bit of ground floor. Oh, it's 27, but it's not numbered, unfortunately. But it's the only one that's yellow. Tell Ian, no more. You got a number. It's hard to find. And I apologize that they're not paginated. They should be.
Upside down, but yes.
Everybody's sort of found their way. So what you can see here is that the property has been carved up into three different buildings. Building A, which is going to be 13 stories. Building B behind it on 27th Street, that's going to be 9 stories, 94 feet. And Building C that will be on 28th Street, that is behind Building B. Building C, all three buildings are listed on the right-hand side of that page, and more importantly, at the bottom of the page. The bottom of the page is really where all the exciting stuff is, because what that's explaining to you is that 41% of the units in this development, which has been mimicked after your recent approval for, what was it, laundry is, the name of the laundry rezone. Arrow Linen, yeah, I was about to call it Cascade. The council member did, so thank you. So we mimicked that, even though the board did not approve and the council member did. We mimicked it because we knew and we've heard and we're aware that your board is constantly seeking deeper affordability. So we knew that if we came into this proposal with anything less than a stupendous amount of affordability at a very, very reasonably low AMI, that there was no way we'd get your support. Nevertheless, the council members. So we presented the application to you as it is today without anybody asking us to do so. And what we've done is we teamed up with Michelle, and as you can see here, or I should say 5th Avenue Committee, on the right-hand side at the bottom, Building C is a fully affordable units that's going to be made available to people at 50% of AMI. Now that's 10% lower than what MIH would require at option level 1. So we're lower than that, and the entire building is affordable. Unlike an MIH building, where an MIH building would have a portion of the building would be affordable, only 25%. Here, this entire building, 48 units, is going to be affordable. That's in addition to the 2 remaining buildings, which will have 25% of their units at 60% AMI. So what's resulting out of everything is that you are resulting in a total of 214 units. 41% of those 214 units will be affordable. That means 88 units out of the 214 will be affordable. And they'll be affordable at an AMI of 55%, which is 5% lower than the AMI under option level 1. What we're trying to do is to present to you, we know we're asking you for a large rezoning. We're asking to go from an M to an R8. What we're trying to do is to present to you a proposal that has a strong community benefit attached to it. And the community benefit is in the form of providing much more affordability at a much lower rate than the law requires. So that's what we're presented to you. That's essentially the application in a nutshell. Having said that, if we can go back to the beginning, I'll just skim through it really quickly. You go right up to the top and we'll just go page by page and I'll just take you through the entire thing. So that way, now that you have an idea of what we're presenting. Okay, so you can see here we're on page 2 of the presentation. The right-hand side of the screen, which is up there also, is showing you a very well-designed, I think, modern-looking, handsome building. Whether or not you feel it fits within the character of your neighborhood is your decision to make. But the architect has spent a lot of time, and Watermark has spent a lot of time coming up with a design that is different. It has chamfered corners in it. It has interesting architectural features. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, for example, the building does not go straight up on the corner. There's some zigs and there's zags. There's a setback to distract the eye so that it doesn't appear as bulky as some other buildings may. And the building up top shows you the building a little bit further in that shows you the same scenario where this facade of it is set back and it's got a playful design. You go to the next slide, please. The next slide just discusses who Watermark is. Shulam Kessler is here on behalf of Watermark. Watermark is a Brooklyn-based local developer. They are all about Brooklyn. They have numerous projects in Brooklyn. They live in Brooklyn. Their team is from Brooklyn. They develop in Brooklyn. They are not coming in from out of town, and they're here for the long haul. What does that mean? We've had meetings with the board and with the council member and with neighbors. Shulam is not going anywhere. Everybody we've met with has Shulam's cell phone number. Shulam is available all the time to speak. Weekends, evenings, mornings, it makes no difference to him. If anybody is having any issues during the conversation, not just now, but more importantly with the neighbors, conversations during construction, any problems, concerns, issues, we have created a network and a pipeline of communication that's not going to be disrupted after we walk away from the approval process. And the reason why is because Shulam is not going anywhere. He'll give you his business address. He'll give you his cell phone number. You could probably come over and hang out with him at his house if you wanted. He's a very nice person. He will not shy away from any problem that's going on. And his goal is to make sure that there are no problems. And he takes that very seriously. So we've already spoken to people about the staging of garbage, spoken to people about cars, trucks, deliveries, hours of operation went during the construction process, which could be disruptive, potentially any abutting properties that might have any concerns with underpinning or anything like that. All of that, Shulam is committed to maintaining a strong relationship, and it's not going to fall upon the board's responsibility to track him down. And we make that commitment, and we'll stick with that commitment. Next slide, please. Next, excuse me. Oh, I'm coming to that. I went back to the beginning and just going from the beginning. The next slide shows you basically everything you know about, probably know about Fifth Avenue Committee and the wonderful work that Michelle has been doing there for the past, I don't know, how many years have you been there, Michelle? 7, 8? How many? You've been there 22 years? Wow, you started when you were a little kid. So the application is, like I said, Fifth Avenue Committee is a big part of it. Obviously, Fifth Avenue Committee is as local as it gets. There's nobody more locally oriented to creating housing from an affordability and a not-for-profit perspective than the Fifth Avenue Committee. In my mind, they've been the gold benchmark of housing in New York City since I started doing this work 30 years ago. So, and Michelle is committed to it, and so is Fifth Avenue Committee. So you're really being brought, at least if you don't like the project, at least the people involved are people that you could trust and that you know. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm sorry to direct you. You can see here that this lists all the different outreaches that have been done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, since we started, and this is in March of 2025. Meeting with Councilmember Aviles, meeting with the community board, meeting with Councilmember Aviles again, meeting with the borough president, meeting with Councilmember Aviles and the board again. We're back and forth, and we've been doing this with the hopes of vetting all the issues that we possibly can and hearing what anybody's concerns, gripes, positives, negatives, everything. The next slide is something you all know about, so I'm not going to talk about the housing shortage. The next slide, please. This just summarizes everything that we're proposing. I'm not going to sit here and list it to you. I just went through it with you. But if you're interested in knowing the floor areas of each building or the FARs or anything like that, it's all right here. Next slide, please. This is the slide that was just being referenced. This is the affordability matrix. This tells you the breakdown of each building, the number of units in the building, which ones are affordable, and the unit distribution. So that way you could easily figure out, for example, if you look at building A, you can tell in 2 seconds that it's got 13 studios at a market rate and 1 that's affordable at 80% AMI. That's on the higher level. But if you go down that same building A and you go to the 3 bedrooms, you'll see there are 7 market rate, and of those 7, there's 7 market rate and 3 affordable. And of the 3 affordable, 2 of them are at 30% AMI and 1 is at 40% AMI. So you're starting to see the breakdowns of things. Next slide, please. The next slide, to me, the most impressive number on this page is the bottom left corner, 41%. I am at relentless amount of zoning and land use hearings at city planning. Rarely, if ever, do you see a number like 41% attached to a project that is being sponsored by a private developer. Now, Michelle is helping us here, Fifth Avenue Committee, because Fifth Avenue Committee is not necessarily a private developer. They're a not-for-profit operator in the marketplace. But this is not an HPD project. This is not a federal project. This is Fifth Avenue Committee garnering together or gathering together whatever subsidies they can to make their building work. And at the same time, Mr. Kessler and Watermark building their buildings fully with private money. No government money whatsoever, not a nickel. Everything they are building with is coming either from their pockets or a lending institution, including the affordable units in the building. And not just that, Fifth Avenue Committee's property has been given to Fifth Avenue Committee in kind by Shulam Kessler and Watermark Capital. Not because they're altruistic people, although they are, but because in order to present to you a development that shows so much affordability, we needed to create a property like Michelle's and Fifth Avenue Committee that has fully affordable, and no not-for-profit developer is going to pay us for that privilege. So we gave it to them. That's not, I don't know if it's given to her at a very reduced rate, at an extremely reduced rate, I should say, at a well, right, Michelle, at a well below market rate. Okay, right? Is that a fair way to say it? Not free, but as they would say in the outside world, a sweetheart deal, so to speak, right? Something that gave Michelle and Fifth Avenue Committee the incentive to get involved and spend the manpower and woman power and brain power to bring this project to fruition and to use their goodwill to get the funding for it. In order for us to convince them to do that, we couldn't charge them full freight for it. We had to give it to them at a rate that worked for their numbers for them to make this work. So what Mr. Kessler and Watermark Capital have put together is a program that just doesn't include what they're providing on their properties, but what Michelle and Fifth Avenue Committee are creating is because of their vision to create a larger level of affordability to meet the past requests that we've heard from the local area, including the council person and maybe some members of the community that might not have voted the way they voted on the laundry. But you get the gist of where we're going. This sheet gives you all of the numbers for all the units, their affordability level, the AMIs, and all that jazz. If you can go to the next slide, please. The next slide just gives you a bit of a, like my kids would say, this is what's trending, right? This is the trending page. This is a TikTok page, it would be trending, right? Because what it's showing you is what your board has created for yourselves as a paradigm over the course of the past 8 years. And you have done a very good job of setting your stage and your table so that when developers walk in, they know what they're asking for and what you're going to ask for. I had the pleasure of representing Totem at 737 4th Avenue. I believe Councilmember Aviles was just getting elected at that point, and she was a board member. And she fought like unbelievably hard to make sure that that building had more than the base minimum of affordability, not just for the units themselves, but also for the commercial units within the building, where some of the rents were tied to the consumer price index, and that the 25% of the units averaged 48% AMI, well below the 60% AMI. But they were still just 25% of the units. That was 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Since then, the top one is Arrow Linen. That's what I keep referring to. Now, I know your board did not approve it. Now I know. But it does show the precedent of where people were pushing developers in your community. They wanted to see more affordable housing, and the bare minimum was not enough, and that's what Arrow Linen provided. We came in slightly higher. They're at 40% of the units. We are at 41% of the units. So, and the reason why you're seeing those numbers get very close to each other is because there's a limit as to what a private person could pull out of their pocket and give as a part of a deal and still be incentivized to create the housing. For example, if you went to work every day and you had to give away a lot of your salary to a charity, there's a limit where you'll say to yourself, you know what, maybe it's not worth it to go to work that day. It's sort of the same thing here. And the 40% is where you're going to see most private developers kind of say, mercy, I can't give much more without any kind of subsidy. And that's why you're seeing the numbers at 40. The next slide, please. Gives you just an overview of what we just spoke about. Next slide, please. This slide shows you the properties. So if you were not familiar with the properties up until now, which I believe most of you probably are, because you live here and you know the neighborhood better than I do, you can see it now. Everything in green is the St. Rocco site. It's everything that you've seen through the years. All the buildings will be demolished. The building on the back right, it says fully affordable. That's the Fifth Avenue Committee. And the other two green properties are where the redevelopment will occur. You'll notice there's an area that says rezoning area in the lower right of that box. There's green and then there's a little like yellowish haze tint that says rezoning area. That whole area, the green and the yellow, is all the area that's proposed to be rezoned. We've had questions already from numerous people asking, do the people in the yellow, are they sponsoring the rezoning? Do they know about the rezoning? We have tried to reach out to the people in those sites to make them aware. If those properties were not desired to be included, the entire, let me just say this, the council member obviously has the right to reject an application, as does your board, but the councilman also holds an additional power, which is that they have the power to tailor a rezoning. So they could put a scalpel to the rezoning and cut out portions of it that they're not happy with, or they could deny the whole thing and cut the whole thing out, which I hope she wouldn't do. But this is an option. So if your board is not pleased with the entire rezoning area, and let's say some people said we don't want to see that whole corner go, that could be a recommendation to remove that corner. Those are not our properties, and they're not proposed right now to have anything developed upon them right now. Yes, I'd be happy to. So the question was, would I explain why Watermark included those properties if they're not a part of the rezoning? And the answer is on this page right here, the right-hand side of the screen in particular. When city planning makes a map, which is what we are doing here, we're amending the zoning map, it has to be done with a rational land use basis that applies systemically to the area. So you can not do just a quote-unquote spot zoning. I cannot bring a spot zoning, in other words, just one piece of property. I have to bring something that makes good logical sense with the land use rationale and the land use plan of the entire general area, not the entire area, but the general area. Now, our land use rationale here is, if you look at the bottom of the page to the right, you'll see there's an R7A right next to us. And if you look to the top of the page, you'll see there's an R8A right above us. So our rationale is not that we're presenting something incorrect that's not compatible here. Our rationale is that the existing M zoning is out of character with the current development trends, and that by rezoning this entire block front, you are therefore bringing the block front into character with the R7A zoning district to its south, or whatever direction. I always get confused with direction I'm moving in here, as well as to the top where the R8A is. So you'll see that. And you'll also notice within our proposed rezoning district here that it is split into two. I didn't mention that. R8A is up on the corner, on the front half, on the avenue, and the back half where Michelle's property and building B is going to requested to be rezoned to R7A. So there's a drop down. And if I can go to the next slide, it's just a description of everything we just spoke about. So I'll skip that. Next slide, please. The next slide just goes to the credibility of Watermark. We're just showing you here their different projects that they've developed. You could see all of the projects are of similar size and scale, showing you that they have the experience, they've done this before, and they're well equipped to handle everything. Next slide, please. The next slide speaks to construction safety protocol. Again, this was a conversation we had at length with the community. We had a separate meeting independent of the board. I know the board leadership and the chair and the council member took the time to meet with us. I think it was definitely on a very cold day this winter. But since then, we had the pleasure of going to a bar with people from the community. What bar were we at? What was the name of it? Mims? Minnie's. Minnie's Bar, where we sat down with people from the block and we went through more of the issues. So that's what that page is. Sustainability features. We all are familiar with sustainability, and obviously it's basically baked into every single development that occurs these days. Let's just say it'll be much more sustainable than the room that we're sitting in, right? So it'll be modern, up to date with all the sustainability features that you could possibly think about. Bioswales, water retention, green roofs, solar. The windows will be however many panes they need to be the optimal efficiency to both keep heat in the winter and sunlight out in the summer, so that it heats and cools correctly. All these features are going to be built into the building. The building, I don't think it'll be an electric building. I think it got pushed off the electric mandate, right? It's still on the electric mandate, so it'll be an electric building. I thought it got pushed back. Next slide. This is for Aaron. What's his name? I forget Aaron's last name. This is the sight line to Minerva, right? This is Aaron. Aaron taught me this. The sight line to Minerva from the Statue of Liberty is not being impacted by this proposal. So we just wanted to call that out. So you see that? And where are you now? You're on the height. Okay, the Minerva. And where can I go next? That's basic. We'll go one more slide, and then I'll shut up. One more. Keep going to this one here. There you go. So this goes back to the question that was asked a few minutes ago: is how did we pick this rezoning area? What this map is showing you, if you look at where our property is you look at the yellow box. The yellow box is, in my opinion, some of the crummiest zoning that was ever created in New York City, right behind a C8 zoning district. The only thing, in my opinion, that holds a neighborhood back more than a C8 zoning district is an M11D or an M12D district. Because as you've probably noticed, they allow, well, as you might know, the D stands for dwellings, and they allow for residential. I can't think of much residential development that's been built in your district, in these neighborhoods, on these blocks, for my entire time of practicing in New York City, which is 30-something years. And that's a testament to the fact that the M11D it's not really doing much, I don't think. If I was in your shoes, I would try to figure out something to make it become, because you're one of the few districts in the city that even has a D district in it, by the way. There are not many in the city. I think there's one more in Queens. But having said that, you could see that because of the M11D district, all the zoning on 4th Avenue that's been changed on our side of the street has been X'd out of this 4-block area. It's like a no man's land or a no woman's land. You have R8 that occurs further down. You have C44D as you head much closer to downtown Brooklyn. You have R7A as you head towards the Verrazano, and you get to this 4-block stretch and it hasn't been touched. Our block probably hasn't been touched through all these years because St. Rocco's controlled it. And when St. Rocco's controlled it, they weren't jumping up and down to redevelop it for 40 or 50 years. But now that they're gone, there's not much else that you could really do in an M12D district. What can I do in an M12D district? Auto repairs, strip clubs, transmission repairs, auto body work, auto painting, wholesaling, retailing, trucking. These are all things that can come in as of right in an M12D district, M11D district like we're in. Now, I'm not suggesting that that justifies our request for a rezoning, but you do have to shed some thoughts to the fact that if nobody came in here for a rezoning, who would come into a site this size for a manufacturing zoning district? What use would use it? And you'd probably find a use that is able to take advantage of an M zone, because manufacturing sites are valuable in New York City. There are not that many, and you could find a developer that might want to come in and say, oh, I'll do something that's manufacturing related. So we're hoping that you could see the benefits of a residential development here, bringing more people in and more opportunity for jobs and for local retail and things like that. But you might like manufacturing too, in which case what I just said probably won't help convince you. Next slide, please. So what this slide is simply showing you is, again, sort of what's happened in this 4-block area. you could see that there really has not been much development. This is the M1 1D district, and you're really seeing a lack of affordable housing. As a matter of fact, the site right across the street, I just started some conversations with people, is up for lease renewal right now. That's in a M district also. It's my client. They have the chance to re-up a fast food chain for another 25 years on a AAA net lease, which is on their desk to sign right now, or they can come for a rezoning. And these are the things that are coming that give you the chance to weigh in. Because really, the only thing that's viable in an M zone on 4th Avenue is what you're seeing. Chipotle, you've got a brand new Chipotle, which in my opinion is not one of the nicest Chipotles I've ever been in my life. Nothing against Chipotle. I don't like their food, but I don't think it's as well maintained as it could be. And the same thing for the fast food shop across the street from us. I forget what Ramica Brands has there. I think what is it there? It's a KFC. And they're up to renew it. And that's to my point that you have developers that are very eager to build in your neighborhood. They're dying to build in your neighborhood. They'll build it pretty much any which way you ask them to build it. Just give them the chance to get out from under the current zoning. And the current zoning is what's holding people back. The next slide shows you the transit options. You're very well suited for very close to transit. You know that better than I do. And the remainder of the slides just break down the buildings and go through the buildings page by page, which I'll spend just a minute doing with you just so you could see everything, but it's just as you'd imagine. There is very little commercial in the development. We are not here to transform the side street with a new strip mall or local retail. We have 3,800 square feet of commercial floor area. Our hopes would be that we'd get 3 or 4 local small businesses. Maybe we get a tailor. Maybe we get a dry cleaner, nail salon. These are the things that we're thinking of. We're not looking to bring in a Starbucks or a Chipotle or any fast food or any bars, and we're not even looking at restaurants. We're looking for things that could service the community so the people in the building have amenities that they could get stuff done at. And the next slide just keeps showing you the same thing over and over again. And that is a lot of Palatnik. That's my last name. So I'm happy to stop talking here and answer any questions you may have. And I thank you all for giving us the time to present it.
Thank you.
Anyone want to start with questions? Yeah, I'll try to.
There are no current conflicts of interest.
I was just asking if the board chairs could clarify any conflicts of interest.
So I'm vice chair. I am an architect. I worked for a firm that did some of these breakdowns. I do not any longer work for them, and I haven't for a while. So the updates that you're seeing on the project are as much as I'm seeing. So there is not a conflict of interest on my part.
Thank you for clarifying.
Do I see any other hands? Really? Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Apologies for being late. We can thank the MTA for that. So much for being a transit-rich but delayed. Thanks. Was there any, in your presentation or in conversation before I arrived, as to, point of clarification, what will the height of the building or buildings closest to the lower height buildings going east, meaning going towards Fifth Avenue B? And if you would guide us, I think I saw a page here, but
Building B is 94 feet high, building A is 134 feet high, and building C is 84 feet high.
Right, but,
Building A is the one that's on Fourth Avenue. the
okay, so
140-foot high
B
one.
and C will be right next to
Residence six.
two-story, three-story buildings at the most. Okay,
That's 94 and the 94-foot
Right.
building and the 84-foot building.
it may be allowed by, in reference to zoning and all of that. Has there been any consideration for the fact that light, air, and sunshine is going to be highly compromised, not only for the neighbors to the east, meaning Fifth Avenue, but to people on the north side of, what is it, 25th, 24th?
Seventh.
Oh, that's right, I'm going the other way. Across the street, let's, depending, particularly since anyone north, because south, they'll have more access to sun.
I'll answer. I see, and you're right to ask that question. And one of the neighbors that we've been meeting with is the neighbor immediately adjacent to the 94-foot tall building. Okay, and across the street. So we've been meeting with those people directly, so they're fully aware. And yes, there will be an impact, of course, because it will be a taller building. But the good news, as far as from their perspective, is that if you look on the screen in front of you,
And what page is that? 27, thank you. Where's the page? No, no, it's okay, it's okay. Are these pages numbered? Oh, the pages are not numbers, okay.
Come back.
Next time, put numbers on the
Yeah.
pages, please. It just makes it easier to follow the, yes,
Oh, Ian,
the
it's got the
storyline.
numbers
Okay,
on.
thank you, thank you.
So I'm gonna need that back. You have it in there because that's got.
Ah, no, I want your notes on
But-
here. No, this
Yeah,
is
it's,
mine.
I'll sign it for you after.
No,
But
it's okay.
but the point that I'm raising for you,
Okay.
I'll just step over here for a minute.
No, the microphone.
White area, I'll repeat that. If you look at the white area behind, in between buildings A and buildings B and C, there's a white area right behind building B in particular. That's a rear yard. That rear yard is about the same depth as the rear yard of everybody in the donut, right? So the donut, right, is the area behind everybody's homes on a block. So what we're doing here, the design, the way it's been incorporated, they could have designed it with a one-story ground floor commercial, a one-story community facility there, excuse me, or something, but we didn't. We left that down to grade that level. So what that's doing is not that it's going to necessarily mitigate the fact that there's a 9-story building next door to these people, but it does help out with their rear yard in the sense that when they step into their rear yard and they look to the right, they're going to see another yard. They're not going to see a wall. And the same for everybody else that's on the block is going to be able to see down. Now, of course, the building that fronts on 4th Avenue will be standing at the end of that corridor, so you won't be able to have a clear shot down to watch traffic move down 4th Avenue. But you will be letting in light. There'll be ample room for light to shine down into those yards. You will not be crowding people out of their rear yards. They'll be able to have gardens. They'll be able to use them to have their children in them, and they'll be able to enjoy the outdoors in their yard. The building itself, though, will go right up against their building.
Okay, much has been said, well, recently, where it was only light and air that was discussed as far as the environmental needs. But we're talking nowadays, the conversation is sunshine as well, because one thing is light and one thing is sunshine. Two different things for health-wise, emotionally, psychologically, physically. And so I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about taking that away from people who are used, have had it. And in fact, it's being taken away from them. And aside from the health aspects, it's a devaluing of their property, because that is no longer something that they can quantify or monetize. So
We can ask and request a shadow study of the buildings. So that kindly requested. And if you could kindly.
I'm hearing the request and it's noted and we'll prepare one.
Thank you.
I have a number of questions. I think the first one would be when the Catholic Church was reaching out to Watermark, was the Catholic they have a nonprofit development arm. I can't remember what the name is. But were they ever looking at using, why did they come to Watermark? And why didn't they use their own nonprofit development arm that they have?
So Catholic Charities is not actually a Catholic specific organization.
No, but there's a
You're talking about a different one.
there's a different, yeah, there's what's the name, Maria? Progress of Peoples is their nonprofit development. Yeah. That's their
Here's
development.
New York City at its best, the Catholic Charities and an Orthodox Jewish developer. Come on up, Shulem, and tell them what the scoop is.
What is that? Hi, all. Thanks for joining. To your question, the answer to your question is it was an open bid for many other developers like us. And it was the normal bid like everyone else. And they chose us over any other developer.
Who else was in the bidding process? Do you know?
They never
They don't
disclosed.
disclose who's in the
Don't.
bidding process, so we don't know. All right. And then there's a couple different questions I have. One is that the two buildings that are the taller buildings are not using the universal affordable UAP from City of Yes to get more affordability. Why are we not using that if we're talking about trying to get the most affordability? And I know also that you won't get more density from using UAP, but why are you not using UAP?
We are using you. It's baked into the zoning with
But
UAP.
you're only getting 25%. That's MIH. So if you're using, you should be getting the UAP bonus, which
I
should
can
get you more than
clarify. Yeah,
25%.
I see where your question is coming from.
Yeah, because the council member actually said first that you were using it, and then later on they said you weren't using it. So there's been contradictions or confusion about
Let me
that.
explain. UAP only comes into play if you have a site that doesn't have an MIH requirement to it. It's meant to give a non-MIH site the opportunity to create additional floor area that would satisfy the 485X requirement of the state tax abatement that has a percentage of affordability requirement, and not take that affordable floor area out of the base requirement, because that was causing developers, then what was happening was developers would go and look at a site. If it did not have MIH on it, they would go to build the site, and then they'd apply for a 485X, and the state would say, now give us 20% of the floor area as affordable units in exchange for the tax abatement. And the developers would say, the math doesn't work. You need to give me back more floor area in order for me to provide the affordable floor area. So what the city did was they created UAP, which is a bank of floor area. And what it says is that a developer who does not have access to MIH could tap into that bank of floor area without going for a zoning change or a variance, can achieve more floor area up to the amount of the UAP, which very few developers will take the full amount of the UAP, because they're only going to take the percentage that's required to match the 485X, and then they're going to walk away from it. And that's the way UAP was designed. And it's working, actually. Developers are now stepping in, building units that have an MIH, have an affordability component, but it's not under the MIH program. It's under the UAP program. So it looks similar, and I could see how you're presenting it the way you're presenting it. And I'm not trying to school you in it. I'm just trying to educate you as far as to that it is a separate mechanism to get the affordability. You can't add it on to you can't have MIH and UAP. It's double different. So that's the reason.
So I'm wondering also about the last time you presented to us, the units have changed a bit, but right now still we're still seeing so few 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms that are actually deeply affordable. And that was something that was brought up, over a year ago or the last time, and there's still not that much of it. And I know the answer is going to be, oh, we want more units. But the fact is, at the end of the day, Sunset Park, what we have is we want affordability for families that are existing here and not affordability for some studios that at the end of the day kind of act like gentrification process of, a lot of young people coming and going and moving because who's going to be using a studio apartment at this point? But we have a lot of working families that could use 2 or 3 bedrooms that need affordable 2 or 3 bedrooms. And so there's still a limited amount on that. And it hasn't really changed that much from the proposal from a year ago.
Yeah, sorry, wow, that was much louder than I thought it was going to be. So Michelle Delalo's Executive Director of the Fifth Avenue Committee. I appreciate the question, and believe me, I would love to increase the number of family size units, in particular in Building C. So there's going to be a trade-off, right? And the trade-off really has to do with what's financially feasible based on current term sheets for HPD 100% affordable housing projects. And really, you're hitting up at 48 units right now. We're kind of at the minimum threshold of what's financially feasible. And so we could increase the number of 2 and 3 bedroom units, but then we are going to be challenged to finance the project.
And you're financing the project through ELA, which is the extreme low income
Yeah,
federal.
which is the same.
Do you
thing
want to
that-
explain that for people? So
Yeah, and these are things, by the way, that you can look up on the New York City HPD website. So there's a program called ELA, the Extremely Low Income Housing Program. It's been renamed, but it's essentially the same thing. And it's really for folks at 50% of area median income and below on average. And generally speaking, for the minimum feasibility for new construction project for affordable housing is really 50 units and above. And we're right up against it with 48 units. So, we're considering a couple different ideas. We might be able to bundle it with another new construction project. Doesn't happen to be in this community board. And we might be able to finance it that way. That's something that we're looking at.
why not use one of the larger buildings then to build?
Well, it goes back to then, again, Watermark there's a couple different things going on here. One is there's an agreement between the diocese and Watermark about what the diocese is, needing in terms of their financial return. And already, Watermark is providing the site for Building C at a discount so that we can make Building C affordable. And swapping it out for one of the larger buildings makes their project not financially feasible, right? Because they have to make a return. So these are like the balancing act that's going on. But believe me, I'd love to squeeze some more 2 and 3 bedroom units out, and we'll be happy to come back and talk more about.
Just while you're here, just one last question.
Sure.
What is the actual arrangement? You are paying, Fifth Avenue Committee is buying the property?
No.
Or no? So what is the agreements? And at the end of the day, the church still owns it, but it's only going through, do you go through Watermark too as well? What are the different,
That's
what are
part
the
of what we're
different
working out? Yes.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's a ground lease, right? And whether it's a ground lease between Fifth Avenue Committee and Watermark or between Fifth Avenue Committee and the diocese, that's to be determined. That's something the diocese has to obviously agree to as well.
Because one of the concerns is people have been asking about the viability of, we have the market rate buildings being built very quickly,
Right.
and the affordable units not being built. And what kind of guarantees can we have? And I know obviously you're going to say federal funding takes time, such and such, but at the same time, there should be a priority.
Federal funding, honestly, and more about city capital funding. But yeah, the pipeline for affordable housing units in New York City, right now, there's, about a 4 or 5 year delay. So projects that are wanting to be built, ready to be built, where the sites have been secured, and basically, those of us that build 100% affordable housing projects, whether we're nonprofit affordable housing developers or for-profit affordable housing developers, we're basically waiting our turn for city subsidy dollars. Now, obviously, Mayor Mamdani has, he campaigned on doing a 10-fold increase in city capital dollars for affordable housing. Now, he's also facing a budget deficit for the city of New York. So if the city is successful in increasing the capital dollars that the city can put towards affordable housing, that pipeline that's currently 4 or 5 years could shorten to a couple years, right? So this is about like organizing and the political pressure. We all know there's an affordable housing crisis, and there is a way to solve it. It takes political will and investment at scale. That's what it takes. And the city of New York does more than any other municipality across the country to build and preserve affordable housing, but the need far, far, far outstrips the supply. Fifth Avenue Committee marketed the projects, the 45 units at the Totem project just a few doors down. Over 80,000 people applied for those 45 apartments, several thousand from this community board, okay, from this community board. And when we built the units above the library, over 60,000 people applied for those apartments. When we built the 100% senior affordable housing building at 63rd Street and 4th Avenue, over 45,000 people applied. The demand is extreme, right? So we need to build it. We need to build it faster. We need to build it as deeply affordable as possible. But we have to make sure that it's feasible, right? And it's not every day that you have a private developer who's willing to entertain a situation where they take and carve up 3 sites and make one available for 100% affordable housing project. That's not something they have to do. It's obviously something, based on what Eric said, the reading of the tea leaves, we know, everything I just said, it points to the need that exists in Community Board 7. And I think this development team is coming to the community board trying to address that need in a proactive way, in a very transparent way, and not kind of like go back and forth, with like, the usual stuff that happens. We're really just trying to be forthright about it. Yeah, Maria? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Should I
let's pass
stop
it across the aisle. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So this is, I'll say this as a question, there is an opinion embedded in it, but I saw 9 parking spaces in there. I'm curious how much those parking spaces drive up the cost of the
Correct.
project, or said differently, how many more units could that be turned into if it was not parking, or said differently, how much is that impacting the everyday person's rent? And is there an entertainment to turn that 9 into 0?
But I'll just say, first off, the affordable housing has no parking. There's no obligation, no requirement on the affordable housing. And it's been our experience that there's no demand on the affordable side. The 9 spaces, and Shulam can correct me if I'm wrong, they're all at grade. None of them are below grade. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So that changes the cost calculation considerably. As soon as you go below grade, it's much more expensive.
And then just the third part of the question was, has there been consideration to move that to 0 parking? And has that been part of the deliberations or discussions?
Oh, you have your mic up here.
I'll speak.
Okay, sorry.
Please use the microphone. Thank you.
I have to speak with the architect. I don't think there was much other uses that could be, that could be put to the space where the parking is being provided, and that's why the parking is being provided there. The parking is just being provided really as a token to maybe help out with a little bit of parking issue. It's not meant to address parking for real, and no real money is being spent on it. It's like we said, it's a grade. And we don't want to put commercial in,
So again, it's a little different, but then if there has to be parking, maybe there can be a requirement for folks with disabilities get to use that spot. So it's at least there's some productive or sort of like a moral reason to have that parking, as opposed to, but if it's possible to get rid of it altogether, I think, I know I personally would support that, and might be a conversation in the board.
Hi, thank you. I have some questions. When you all had come last year, you had talked about leasing the basement space to a nonprofit. I was curious if that was still being explored.
It didn't work out. We were trying very hard to create a relationship with Opportunities for Better Tomorrow, who previously occupied a portion. I think they were at this corner years ago, and I believe one of the sisters involved in it is also a relationship. So it's sort of like a kismet kind of thing, like meant to be, to have them in this space. We spent a very long time with them in good faith, trying to accommodate their needs, but their spatial needs are much greater than this building could provide, and they actually rejected us because of that. Uh, so we tried to include them.
Can you speak to plans for the space?
We don't really have any plans for that space now. Maybe it'll be used for storage or something like that. There's really, the buildings were not developed with the idea of utilizing the subsurface space for anything in particular. There was no desire or plan to create anything there. So what we were trying to do with Opportunities for Better Tomorrow is to make lemons out of lemonade and take something that really had no utility, and hopefully they could use it. And they would be able to use it, like, it just wasn't enough space.
Thank you. Can you speak to what is the rent being paid to the Diocese of Brooklyn and who's paying the rent?
I cannot tell you, that's unfortunately, that's a confidential and a private transaction of what their leasehold rents are. Shulam Kessler is here, you could talk to him more about it afterwards if he'd like to disclose it to you in private. Maybe he will, but it is confidential, and I'm sorry we're not disclosing that to you.
Can you speak to whether a community benefits agreement is being explored at all?
Well, we're hoping that this is the community benefits agreement. As Michelle just said, I mean, I came in, I said hello to Joni, she told me she's been here for 30-something years. That's about 26 years, I think she told me, 1990 something. So I've been coming here pretty much that whole time. I started in 1997 doing this. We don't want to mislead or not be transparent with your board. So our community benefits agreement is our application. We came in giving as much as we possibly could, and we are willing to memorialize this in writing and to commit to it, so that when we walk out of here, you're guaranteed that the development that you have in front of you is what will be built there at the 41% of affordable units, at the AMIs, with Fifth Avenue Committee as a part of it. And that's what we're hoping would satisfy your request.
Can you speak to when the City Planning Commission is looking to certify?
Yes, they're looking to certify it soon. This is a conversation that we'll be having with your board. It's getting into the summertime, of course. We have no desire to cause anybody any aggravation in their scheduling or logistics of your meetings. And I know that you don't meet over the summer, and it would call for a special meeting. City Planning has said to us they'll be ready to certify sometime in June. We are asking them if they could, we are going to be asking them tomorrow if they could certify us in early June. I think June 1st is the first day that they're meeting, right? That was the date you found. So it's literally the first day of June. Our hope would be that they would accommodate our request and that we can meet with you in the month of June. So that way you don't get caught up in the ULURP timing. If that were to occur, we would let your board know right away, and we would be more than happy to come to as many meetings as you deem necessary between May and June. That's if your board was amenable to what city planning is proposing. And this is a conversation we'd have to have with your board. If your board was not comfortable with that schedule, we would of course accommodate your board's requests and work around whatever your board feels is correct. But the essence of things is that summer is getting a little bit in the way. I'm a big fan of summer, as we all are after this winter, but we don't want it to cause that much of a delay in creating housing. So a 2 or 3 month delay is, just to give you an idea, just for delays, you can understand, when we're talking about it on their end, the delays add up to well into the 3 figures, as far as what it costs a developer on the delay. So we're not in any rush to delay it. It only drives costs up, but we don't want to interfere with your board's agenda and schedule and way of doing business. So we're going to try to navigate that together with everybody, and hopefully we can do it in this spring period. And if not, we'll have to wait until September.
And I just had one last comment, and this is to the developer. I just want to thank you for being here. A lot of times developers, they don't show up until very later in the ULURP process. So thank you for being here tonight. I just want to recognize that there's another project that's very close to the neighborhood, and that's 6208 8th Avenue. And I just want to share that, you know, I know that you ran through the slides and we didn't get to go too deep into the housing shortage within this neighborhood, but within the slide, there's over half of the local population, I'm quoting the slide, is rent burden. Michelle mentioned that there were 80,000 people who applied for a very little number of apartments. And I just have to say how heartbreaking it is that there's plans to build, right now, it's actually being built, a 28-story tower with nearly 500 units that will be completely market rate as of right. And I think that's completely unimaginable, given what not only this community is going through in terms of a housing shortage, but what's happening in Brooklyn. So I would ask for you to bring it back if you can look into developing affordable, you know, creating affordable units within that project.
Pass it across the aisle.
Yeah, thanks also for coming today. You know, it looks like compared to the last time you were here, it looks like there's been an improvement in the percentage of affordable units, and I'd like to just kind of understand the differences between the June proposal and today's proposal. It looks to me like there's an increase in the number of units in building C, and that's like causing the increase in affordability percentage. Is that right?
You nailed it. That's it.
And the way you're doing that is just by reducing the number of 2-bedroom apartments?
Well, no, I thought you did.
We went back, actually, it was one of the questions that came up here, and then Fifth Avenue Committee followed up with Watermark. We're basically building C is getting all of its square footage associated with the R7 rezoning. And prior, some of the square footage was potentially being considered to go to building B, and now it's all staying with building C.
Okay, so the number, the square footage of affordable units is increasing.
Exactly.
Okay, that's moving in the right direction. Thanks.
Go back to Maria very quickly, and we'll do public questions at the end.
Thank you. I was taking a quick look at the square footage of the different apartments in building B right now and then building C is the one that is totally
100% affordable, yeah.
Okay. The square footage for a New York City apartment looks quite ample. I
Had a comment.
question. I have a question. Mike, I have a question. If one of the interests and willingness of the developer is or developers to provide as many affordable units as possible, and this may even speak to even the market rate, because I've seen some of the market rates being built along 4th Avenue and the size of what those apartments look like. I just went out of curiosity just to see what the inside looked like. And given the shortage of affordable housing in particular, they look to me they could be smaller. And I am a minimalist when it comes to workforce housing, which is what to me, that's the term from showing my age here, you know, for working people and people who are at the low income or low moderate part of the scale. And you can raise a 2-children family, 2 small bedrooms and a master bedroom for the adult, with a 1.5 bathroom in less square footage than that, which is quite, no one's going to be on top of anybody else. It is, and then create more apartments. And I've done that kind of work personally. So I'm not speaking because I read a book or I went to meetings. I did a lot of that work for decades.
For
So,
building C, I'll just say that we're guided by what HPD requires. So the market rate,
I
I
know
can't
that.
speak for the market
Mhm.
rate, but for buildings, for 100% affordable housing projects that are financed with government money, they actually set your ranges for square footage.
I know that you know that I know.
I know, but it's been updated. I
Okay,
guess is
that's
my
that
point.
was my
It's been
question.
updated and it's become smaller.
Oh my,
Believe it or not.
well, I remember smaller than that. I haven't practiced. I mean, I've been involved in it sort of, surreptitiously, but
Yeah,
not,
but part of the
if
thing-
anything, they should be,
Well, part of it to think, one of the ways that it's been adjusted to, if you, for instance, if you go on Housing Connect, New York City Housing Connect, which is the website where you can access and apply for affordable housing, you'll see that, for instance, a studio apartment, that a two-person family can fit in a studio apartment. Like basically, one of the ways that they've trying to address the affordable housing crisis is two ways. One is they've shrunk a bit the sizes of the apartment, and they've increased the number of people who can legally occupy the apartment. Both of those things have happened on the affordable housing
So,
side in the last few years.
just the last question, there's many questions, I don't know, but so have they changed? I remember the rule that you couldn't have a boy and a girl in the same bedroom. You needed to have uh, girls in one bedroom and boys in the other, and so forth and so on.
I have to get
So that's
back
what I'm
on
going
that.
back a little
My
bit.
lottery
you know,
people will know that, and I don't remember the
Right.
answer.
So I think there's room there. And I'll go back to and refresh my skills on the breakdowns and whatnot, because I just have a feeling, because I know what the apartment sizes in the co-ops that are going for $800,000 are, and people will pay $800,000 for an apartment that is smaller than that, the one bedroom and the two bedroom with one bathroom. So I'm just, not to cramp anybody because it's affordable housing, because that would be cruel, inhuman, and nobody should have less space just because they are working class. But I think it's New York City. We're not a suburb. We're not, and I think housing, a roof over someone's head that is clean, that is safe at the end of the day. Thank you.
Yep. Julia, online.
Julia Harris?
Yes,
There you go.
yes. Sorry, it took me a minute. Thank you again for your presentation and the move towards more affordable units. Just a few quick questions. First off, I'm just curious, will the architect for the Watermark buildings be the same as the Fifth Avenue Committee, or is that a different architect envisioned?
It'll be a different architect.
Okay. And then for the affordable units, I assume they're all permanently affordable, but I'm just curious how that works relative to the ground leases for all three buildings, like after 99 years. Obviously, it's a long ways away, and I assume it's a 99-year duration, but what happens after that?
So the affordable housing will be affordable based on regulatory agreement. And right now, the regulatory agreements are 60 years long. I can tell you that, Fifth Avenue Committee for projects we're a 48-year-old organization. Regulatory agreements used to be 30 years. They're already now 60 years. We continue to have the units that are under our ownership. We just continue to roll them over in terms of affordability and go back to government, honestly, to refinance and rehabilitate the properties and keep them affordable long term. So they'll have to align with the ground lease, essentially.
Okay, and then on the Watermark buildings, what's the term of duration of those
99
units?
years, right? 99 years.
Okay. And then lastly, a question more for the Watermark team on the zoning. I think I asked this back in June, but I forget. And just so the community is aware in this application, does the zoning allow for, I'm making up a number on the Fourth Avenue side, a 14-story building, but you're saying 13, or is 13 stories the limit?
Hi, Eric Palatnik answering your question. To answer your first question, just to clarify, I think when you were talking to Michelle, the length of the regulatory agreement is 60 years with HPD. Okay, the length of the lease with leasehold interest is 99. With respect to your latter question was, wait, repeat your question one more time. I forgot already.
Are the building heights you're proposing, is that the
Yes.
maximum building height
It's
allowed
not
by
the max.
zoning?
No, it is.
Right.
It is not the maximum. We're allowed to, I believe, go up to 175 feet. I believe in an R8, and we are not reaching that. We would be more than happy to put that in writing, that we would be happy to stick to the height that we're at. The plans that we're presenting to you are the plans that we intend to build, and there's no intention to go taller than what you're seeing.
Okay, I will defer to, more proximate neighbors and peer community members on that, but I just wanted to make that flag for everyone that the buildings could be taller based on the zoning designation being
And you're right.
requested.
Yes, and you're right to call that out, and I should have brought that out at the beginning when I presented. I apologize.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, I have a couple follow-up questions. One is I also was going to ask about what is the maximum height allowed under the rezoning. So thank you, Julia. You beat me to it. You'd mentioned that you were not interested in pursuing a community benefits agreement. Is that something you?
No, not at all. What I mentioned was that we'd be more than happy to enter into a community benefits agreement. What I was trying to communicate was that we believe that the plan that we presented already, it doesn't have the title as a community benefits agreement, but it includes many of the things that we would put into a community benefits agreement, such as assuring the height,
Yes.
assuring the rents, assuring the number of affordable units, all of that stuff.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think that a lot of people here on the board would like to see that, put in writing and just, yeah, because we appreciate you coming here in good faith, but, trust but verify, right?
I understand. Yes, no, we get it. And, my law school professor at Brooklyn Law School taught us, don't trust your mother. So that's Joe Crea at Brooklyn Law School. So.
Okay, I wanted to ask a little about the environmental situation. This is an M1 designated site. We have neighbors who found evidence of heavy metals in their soil. What are we doing during the course of this process to ensure that it's safe for the neighbors during construction and for the residents after it's completed?
Sure. Well, first of all, city planning did do a thorough environmental review. There was no phase 2 requested during it. Have you conducted a phase 2 on this property yet? No.
No EIS, okay.
Yeah, there's been no EIS required. Before they go to build, they will have to submit more documentation to the Department of Building, attesting to the cleanliness of the site. So we will make sure the site is clean, and so will the government before they dig.
So then what is the process for doing that test?
Well, the first thing was to go through Department of City Planning, which would have flagged if there was a history, any 50-year history of environmental problems.
That
on the
50-year history?
Yeah, they go back 50 years.
Correct.
Okay, and nothing's been picked up in any of the information that we've researched and done already. I'm hearing your concerns because we've heard the same thing, that some of the neighbors just sampled their own soil for curiosity. So Shulam will probably be doing the same and bringing it to his environmental testing companies to make sure, just on his own. But there is no requirement because there is nothing to indicate that there is a problem on the property.
Sure. I'm just worried about what remains from more than a century ago, before there
sure.
were environmental laws.
Yeah, well, that's.
I mean, so what's typical is you do the phase 1, right? And if the phase 1 finds anything, then you have to do a phase 2.
Yep.
And obviously, if you find that there's any contamination on site, then depending on the level of contamination, you have to either go to city DEP or state DEC.
Right.
And have the remedial action work plan reviewed and approved by them, and they sign off before you can have any occupancy on the site. So we haven't done phase 1s yet.
Yeah, and I would like to see that in the community benefits agreement as well. Especially once you get started on construction, looking at what's already there. Because, this is a neighborhood with families in it, and we want to mitigate pollution to the fullest extent possible. What else? I had other thoughts. I noticed that your AMI levels have changed and they've shifted to more affordability and less in kind of the mid-range. And I just want to flag that I think that's a good thing. I'm wondering if it's possible to do any more.
We're at literally our breaking point. We have spent 2 years running these numbers back and forth. And as a matter of fact, Michelle came back to us. The discussion you had at the floor area was Michelle coming back to us and telling us that her numbers aren't working out unless we give back more floor area to her, which threw Shulam into a panic because that tweaked his numbers to the breaking point. So everybody has really run a stress test on the numbers. Before, and this is what I was coming to, we've really tried to be transparent. We have worked like dogs for the last 2 years to give you the best, most efficient project we can. There's not much more meat left on the bone here. We've literally skimmed everything off, and whatever was left, Michelle just took. So we really are trying to be completely forthcoming with you in our presentation and our numbers. And we're at the end. We didn't come to you with the gamesmanship of, oh, we can do this, and then like a car dealer, and then ask us, oh, we found more. We came to you with in a good faith effort to show you our bare bones numbers.
Okay. And I'm looking at the renderings, and I see a lot of setbacks, which might help with the sunlight issue. That's something I'd like to see in a CBA as well. And I want to echo requests for a shadow study, especially for the folks north and east, because we don't want to, negatively impact their qualities of life. And yeah, so reiterating that request.
And just to summarize, I have the sunlight study in the CBA, the parking discussion we're going to include that we had a few minutes ago to see if we can get rid of that. We're going to put the CBA in writing. We're going to try to see if we could find more family-sized units potentially. So we're keeping track of everything you're saying.
Yeah, definitely would love to see more family-sized units for sure, especially in the affordability matrix. Erin, did you have any questions? Oh, yeah, Julio. Oh, well, Erin, do you have any?
I don't have any.
All right, let's open things up to the general public. We have someone who's been waiting, please.
Hi, my name is Lee Welling, and I live in the house immediately adjacent on 27th Street. I think you've met my husband, Ben. So I definitely want to underscore the point about that I think some of my neighbors share about the height and impact on light and air. So we'll definitely be interested in hearing more about that. We have 2 little kids who are 2 years old and 9 years old. So we definitely use our backyard, and definitely want to be in contact about any environmental concerns also as construction moves forward. And then in terms of question, I was wondering about timing. So you were saying you're hoping to certify in early June. Do we know when demolition would actually begin?
So
if that moves forward?
assuming that it goes through the process and is approved, which is an assumption, it's not approved yet. Once it gets certified, it takes approximately 5 to 6 months to move to an approval or a decision. So say it was certified in July, that'll bring us into January next year of when it'll be approved, sometime around the holidays of next year. Assuming that occurs on that schedule, then you can imagine it'll take about a year for them to get their building permits. During that 1 year time period, probably halfway into that, is when they'll do demolition on the existing buildings. And your husband, we've met your husband on numerous occasions. I believe he has Shulam's number, and Shulam's going to be specifically in close contact with your family as well as a few others who own the properties immediately around, so that it's not going to be a surprise. There won't be a bulldozer pulling up one day while your kids are in the backyard and you're freaking out that there's 10,000 trucks out front and strange people. That's exactly what he's trying to mitigate. He can't mitigate the size of the building, obviously, but he can make your quality of life better. So that's what we're trying to do. And we're going to do the shadow study as they just asked for a second ago. And hopefully that's going to give you some comfort that as I said before, that your donut is not going to be blocked right up against the back. So when your kids are playing in the backyard and they look over the fence to the right when they're walking out your back door, they'll be able to look over the fence and see other people in those yards and not a building. Or maybe you'll plant trees and you won't see anybody.
So I know that this is kind of a shifting schedule and it's pending quite a bit of approval in the ULURP process, but can we get, can I kindly request the overall schedule,
Yes.
not by year, but by month and allocated time per construction
Yes.
into the community agreement? So it doesn't have to have
Dates, just the time.
no dates, but it would be very helpful to have like an understanding of how long is the demo? Is it going to be 6 months, 8 months? This site is very large. I mean, it would be very helpful to have that for the community to fully understand what we're looking at.
Yes, we could
Thank you.
definitely do that for you.
I actually also have a question I just thought of. You mentioned that you had tried to reach out to the property owners in the area
On Fourth.
Fourth Avenue. I'm just curious, like how that didn't work out.
Can you explain any outreach to people on Fourth Avenue?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We had a preliminary conversation with oh, sorry, Asher Freeman from Park Point Strategies, government relations consultant on the project. We had a preliminary conversation with the property owner at 793 4th Avenue. So that is like directly next to the St. Rocco site. And we're working on connecting him with Shulam actively now. I think we connected them over email yesterday. So we're working on that, but we have not been able to contact anyone else on 4th Avenue.
What did you do to try to reach out to them?
I believe you've had your broker leaflet them. Yeah.
Sent a letter? Oh, they canvassed. Okay. Would you be willing to have a person designated as a point person for everyone in the neighborhood to reach out to if there are any issues? That's all right. The man himself. Great. Great. Your phone's going to be blowing up. And I believe we have one more question from the public online.
Thank you. We have a question from Matt. How do they plan to provide heat to the affordable units? Electric heating units have been an issue in other affordable projects in Watermark's portfolio, leading to extremely high utility bills and making units difficult to live in.
Yeah, I can't speak to any of Watermark's other properties or the allegations or any problems with the heat or anything like that. I can tell you though that the building, the affordable units are going to be no different than the market rate units. The systems that are put in place to heat and cool and ventilate every unit in the building will be exactly the same. The tenancies will have full control over their HVAC and heating system. They can turn on their heat when they want at whatever temperature they'd like to, and they can turn on their air conditioner at whatever temperature they'd like to. If the units don't work as designed, Shulam will undoubtedly service them and repair them so they work as designed. But there's no intention to make anything any different than it would be for a market rate unit.
And on the affordable side, I'll just say that when affordability is calculated on the affordable housing, when it's 30% of income, it's not just rent that's calculated as part of 30%, but it's also utilities. And so we bring in experts that really look at what the cost would be for that particular, cooling system or whatever it is, so that the burden, if you will, is rent and utilities, and the two together do not equal more than 30% of someone's income.
Michelle, just to clarify, that means that if we have another winter like we had this year and the heat's running all winter long, they're not going to pay through the nose for it. Is that what you're saying?
That's part of how it gets calculated, that there's a range.
Julio? Yeah.
Sorry, just to note, Edward Cerner from council member of Elias's office has been in the meeting the entire time. So I just want to note that for the record.
In the green. Take the mic.
My name is Maria. I live on 27th Street. But my most concern is my daughter. She's one of the house on 28th Street. It's right behind the church, her backyard. It's in the parking lot of the church facing. So how that will affect her? Will be a wall? Will be a space left between?
There'll be space left between the buildings. The building that's on 27th will have a rear yard. So your daughter, I assume, is on 28th, you said,
28.
and she has a backyard also, I'd imagine. So her backyard will meet the backyard of the building on 27th. So there'll be her backyard and their backyard.
Their backyard, okay.
Correct. There'll be a taller building behind their yard, but there will be a yard. You're welcome.
I had a question about that yard. I think the last time that we met, I asked a question about, does the affordable housing have access to that yard?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, the affordable housing, as I was trying to say with the heat and then everything, it's full access to every single thing.
Okay.
There's the only difference between the affordable housing tenant and the market rate tenant is the rent they're paying.
No, I mean, in the 100% affordable, does it, last time you said it didn't have.
No, they
access
don't,
to-
the 100%, I'm sorry. The
Does not-
affordable, I misunderstood. The
Got it.
affordable residents within buildings A and
yes,
B
I am.
have full access to everything in the market rate building.
And why does the 100% affordable not have access to that yard?
Because that has their own amenities. It's its own building. It's a separate building. It's just coming through in the same rezoning application. It's not a part of the development, so they would have no reason to have access to it at all. They have their own building and they have their own amenities. They'll have their
I
own
mean, that
services.
seems pretty easy to connect them. I mean, it just seems like excluding amenities from them. And also, if we're thinking about it, if we're only using that, not using that space, like you could build out more. You could use that space.
Are you
for
talking about the rear yard space?
some of the rear yard space for more
Yeah,
affordable
okay.
housing. So the fact that I don't really buy that, oh, you can't build access for the 100% affordable to it, that seems like you're discriminating
You
against the
can,
100%
Bill,
affordable.
physically you can, but we're not.
Right, you could. I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense why you shouldn't.
I mean, Building C will have its own amenities.
But why do you have
Including a yard.
a private yard? So where is their yard? Their yard is on the rooftop?
There's actual yards. So I mean,
I mean, the setbacks. So that's the thing too, is that we're doing all these things where you're putting these setbacks for yards where that could be housing too. So it's like,
no, you
why-
can't. You can't because
mean, you
it's a
could-
maximum FAR.
That is a requirement by code.
Right, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff where why are we having, it doesn't seem completely fair at all. That seems like equivalent of a pour door, that you have 100% affordable that looks upon, can see a backyard, but doesn't have access to it, where only the
I mean,
affordable
I think
or the
I
market
would
rate housing.
frame it, right? So you have two,
That's
you
not
have two mixed income buildings, right? With MIH units that have full access to the amenities in the mixed income property. And then you have a separate 100% affordable housing building that has access to amenities in the 100% affordable housing building. They're being financed separately. They're going to have separate certificates of occupancy, right? So these are all things that are important to keep in mind. And so, and what the neighborhood is getting is more affordable housing units and more deeply affordable housing units by bundling the three together in one zoning application.
So the lots are considered separate, so they have to be developed that as separately. And so this was a question that we had asked previously. I think we asked it last year, where it was, are you combining the properties and then rezoning? And in that case, those two could connect, but they are developing it as one separate building as fully affordable, and then the two somewhat together. So that's why that line, I fully agree with you. And this was one of the questions that I had asked. We asked it like a while back. Yeah.
Michelle, I'm looking at the map here and I'm seeing that building C does not go all the way to the lot line. What is going to be in that space between the building and the building B's recreational space?
The backyard, essentially.
Yeah, so is there a
It'd
backyard?
be a backyard.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that answers the
Yeah.
question, that it
Yeah.
gets its own backyard. Can you also detail what other amenities will be present in that building?
Can't recall honestly right now. I mean, part of it is going to depend on what the ultimate financing is, but
it.
I mean, we're obviously going to have laundry in the building. Say that again.
Are the amenities included in the plans
Look,
for building C specifically? I'm just
I'm not
wondering. because
sure we have it.
I know, I see the square footage calcs, but I'm just,
I mean, I can tell you what we often have in our buildings, right? We often have community facility, basically a community room for the tenants. We often have a laundry room for the tenants. We often have a terrace or a backyard space for the tenants. Those are things that are very, very typical.
So yeah, I'm looking at one of the later pages that has the site plan for building C on the lower floors.
Storage, you see a couple of those
So
things.
I see, and this is in the basement, correct? The bike storage, the
Yes.
amenity space, and the meter rooms.
And there's a bit also on the lobby.
And on
level.
the first floor. Okay. Um, what does community facility space or amenity space mean?
So the amenity space is specific for the residents of the building, right? And so that's what I'm talking about. We often have like a community room where people can, have a kid's birthday party, have a shower, that kind of a thing, a bridal shower, those kinds of things in the building, and you can reserve those spaces. And in addition to that, laundry space, often in the upper floors, and then backyard or terrace space. The community facility space, so that, as you can see, that's the space that's about 2,500, 2,600 square feet. That's very likely going to be office space for Fifth Avenue Committee and Neighbors Helping Neighbors in the future.
And that would be separate from the amenity space adjacent?
Separate from the amenity space. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I also wanted to just verify this whole building is ADA compliant?
Absolutely, yeah. By law, you have to be.
And then will all the residents have access to the terrace on the roof?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know that the terrace is going to be on the roof necessarily.
Okay.
But because there's going to be a backyard space.
Yeah. Now, in some of the plans, there was some stuff about environmental mitigation, such as green roofs.
So based on the law that passed, the city law, basically it's solar or green roof.
Yeah.
Or you can also do both potentially.
Okay. Any idea what would happen on building C?
We'll look at it. I mean, the solar study might help actually, or the shadow study, I should say.
Yeah.
The shadow study could help inform that. I mean, Fifth Avenue Committee, we've been solarizing our existing portfolio. And, both the library space and the senior building that we built on 63rd Street have solar panels.
What happens when you have solar panels for the existing tenants? Do they actually just get lower? How does that arrangement work
It
with?
depends on the property. I mean, obviously, there are many more people using electricity than there is electricity being generated by the solar panels. And so basically, it's a savings that often goes to the common area electric, which helps keep the operating cost down of the affordable housing, which helps extend the affordability of the project.
Because that's also a great opportunity to do some sort of cooperative solar, like Uprose has done it at places where, the tenants actually have a
community shared solar.
Community shared solar where they, technically kind of own it and get the benefits of that. And that obviously brings back the affordability for them.
All right, last round of questions.
I'm just going to put the questions out, and I don't know who is going to get to answer them. The 99-year ground lease, what happens if Watermark, for whatever reason, I can think of a variety of scenarios, needs or wants to sell the property? Is all of this, all that will be promised to the community will that be in the deed, protected in the deed, so that anyone who picks up the ground lease, should Watermark leave town, has to live by the same agreement and the same guarantees that were presented at the beginning? Wait, no, I'm going to put all my questions.
Go on. You go on with the rest of your
Okay. What flood zone is the site in for all three buildings? What designation? 100 year, 50 year? Because that address is mighty close to the North Bay, the New York City's Upper Bay. And the basements between 3rd and 4th all get flooded, and not because it's a hurricane or anything like that, on a water event. So
I'll find out what flood zone we're in.
We'll be curious about that. And because in reference to the flood zone, that may impact what use there might or might not be for the basement, or the basements in the development. And the third, I wrote it on a different page. Please bear with me. Uh, so, so the 9 ground lease, the flood zone, and I think the other question was answered already.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
To answer your questions, I'm reading the plans and it's reading outside of flood zone. So it is not within a flood zone. That's to answer your first question.
And what is the line where
I don't know where the line
don't
is.
know, okay.
I don't
So
know,
across
but I'm
the street
reading the
is flood
plans.
zone, but on this side of the street, it's not no,
Um,
I've seen that. I'd see that. And then 20 years from now, the float zone is up the block.
Oh,
Half
yes,
the
yes, we'll all be underwater in 20
well,
years.
yes.
To answer your next question is that it depends. There is no deed restriction that will be covering the agreement we're making. However, Department of Housing Preservation and Development will be entering into a regulatory agreement with the developer that will bind them to all of the affordability requirements that we're talking about here, that will have to comply with what's in the city planning resolution. So, and of course, we're going to make a community benefits agreement that's going to memorialize it as well. So the answer to your question is the regulatory agreement is going to obligate any future purchaser. So if Shulem and his business associates should leave town, as you say, and sell it to me, for example, or you, or anybody else, any third party, that entity would have to abide by the regulatory agreement.
Okay, so that would be for 60 years.
Correct.
So we could have a 99-year clock ticking for the ground lease, and there's a 60-year clock ticking for the program.
Correct.
For what you still be
For the
agreement.
control over the property.
No, I understand that, but there's a word for that type of agreement, and I'm having a senior moment right now.
Regulatory agreement.
Regulatory, sorry. Yeah. Should know that.
But yes, there's a discrepancy between where you're going, I think, there's a discrepancy between the leasehold interest, which is 99 years, and the 60-year regulatory agreement that's from HPD. Okay, right? Is that the point you're making?
Right. So that being the case here, will there be in the commitment, whether it's a community benefits agreement or whatever, that they will enter into a new agreement for an additional 60 years or whatever they may be at that time? It may be 80 years.
Oh, there won't be. And for the simple reason that there's a reason why HPD puts a time limit on their regulatory agreements. And you know this, none of us know the future.
Will there be, whatever the regulatory agreement is at the time, at the end of the 60 years?
Yes, we'll be adhering to
they will
that.
enter into whatever the statute
Yes.
says. At
No,
that
we're
time.
going to, yes, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
God only knows what the world will be like in 60
Thank you.
years, but you are correct.
We hope their heirs will be
And just
respectful and
if you
accountable as the present.
right, and if you want to follow a current event, something that's going on similar is Cord Meyer development in Bayside, Queens. Cord Meyer owns most of the land in Bayside, Queens. It's all on co-ops, 99-year leases. Those leases are all coming due this decade, I believe, and the city has been involved tremendously in negotiating with them to try to. So this happens with the 99-year leases every, we're seeing it now for the first time after the first 90 years went by, but it's interesting, right?
I just had a couple clarifying questions. So when you were describing the garden in buildings A and B, you kept referring to it as a garden, and Michelle kept referring to the space in the for building C as the backyard.
There you
So
go.
I just wanted clarification as to the design of those outdoor spaces. Will they be designed in likeness to one another?
Yes, it's going to be a rear yard that is going to be landscaped. and that is what we are trying to denote. There hasn't been a final landscaping design made yet, but we can assure you it will be done to a very tasteful degree with pavers and lighting and plant life and features that induce calming and backyard kind of vibes.
Thank you.
So quick clarification. So, any space behind a building on a lot is considered, it's the technical term, rear yard. It can be only developed as a landscape due to lot regulations and setbacks from both the front and the back. But that being said, it is good to know that it is going to be landscaped nicely.
Will be.
For both for
Both buildings. All three, yes, sorry. Both developments, all three buildings.
being censored. Okay, I also had a question regarding the rents. There was a statement for the there was a question on the so for the electric on the units that are affordable, are those included in the rent? So for example, I don't have it in front of me, but if one of the rents was 1,500, is that already baked into that price, that utility?
What I was commenting on is that when you come up with what the affordability levels are for the apartments, you look at what the rent is plus utilities and the two. So in some cases, the rent is included, meaning, I'm sorry, the utilities are included in what the rent is being paid. And other times, there's the rent, and then the tenant is responsible for their electric bills separately. But when you set the rents, when you combine those two, they can't pay more than 30% of their income when they're coming into the apartment. So it can vary, right? Sometimes it's included and sometimes it's not included. I can't tell you right now which one it's going to be, but I can tell you that when the building is designed and we figure out which way it's going to be, when the rents are first set, that it's going to be 30% combined rent and utilities for those AMI levels.
Thank you for clarifying. And then my last question is on the construction. Will that be union labor? There was a concern, I believe it was in October, there were 4 construction workers who were hospitalized after a partial building collapse at 6208 8th Avenue. So just concern over other watermark property sites and construction at the site.
There is no proposal to have the buildings built with union labor. We will probably be reaching out to 32BJ shortly to have 32BJ operate the building services within the building, but there's no proposal to have union labor in the building.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Maria, we're going to be here all night. You've asked questions 3 times. All right. Okay, one more.
When will the board be made aware? When will the drawings showing individual units layout and room dimensions be available? Will it be prior to the vote of the board?
No, the plans that you have in front of you right now are the plans that we are presenting to you. They should have most of the information that you need, but we're not trying to be lacking in providing you with anything. So if there's more information that you'd like, you could certainly reach out to me anytime you want. I'll put you right in touch with the architects, and we could provide you with any detail that might not be in the drawings. The drawings that you have in front of you now are simply what's been used to get through this approval process and the discretionary part of it. And as I'm sure you know, once this gets done, the architect is going to be hired to create filing drawings, which are going to have all the information I think that you're looking for. But we can provide that to you as needed right now on an as needed basis. We're not trying to hide anything from you. So if you'd like that, just reach out to me or Michelle and I'll get back to you with it.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for your time tonight. You guys have been very kind to us. Thank you very much.
I adjourn the meeting.
Well, I'll just say, I left some, where are these things? And report them. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we need to submit minutes before the meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, okay.
Is that any chance you could throw that together?